Hey, good evening, everybody. We're coming to you on SportsBeat Live for the second straight Monday night and third time in 4 weeks late into the evening. We are joined by Vahe Gregorian, star columnist. What's up, Vahe?
Hi, Blair. Long time no see.
Been a while. Been a while. All about 20 seconds. And Pete Gradhoff, star reporter who watches every Chiefs game and comments and posts and has about 17 bylines on Chiefs topics. What's up, Pete?
Not much, guys. Good to see both your friendly faces.
And we'll be joined by Sam Mellinger, Sam McDowell, and Herbie Teope when they're finished writing and setting up shop somewhere, either at the Chiefs press box or from home. And hey, listen, we want your questions and comments on the Chiefs' 26-10 victory over the New England Patriots on a Monday night football game that wasn't scheduled to be played on Monday night. We were supposed to go Sunday afternoon, 3:25 kick. I was really looking forward to a Sunday afternoon game at home, but no, it wasn't to be because of the COVID-19 testing that took Cam Newton out of the game, and so the game was delayed for 24 hours. Also, a Chiefs player, the practice squad quarterback Jordan Ta'amu was ruled out as well. So, listen, Chiefs win, as I said, 26-10, starting 4-0. And I didn't know this until CBS posted the graphic today. 4-0 for the fourth straight year. That has never happened in NFL history. I find that hard to believe, right? I mean, 4-0. Listen, Alabama starts 4-0 every season in college football, right? Ohio State, but I guess the end of that shows what a different animal the NFL is.
It really surprised me, Blair, but look, I think it's in a way kind of testimony to the stability of what Andy Reid's done here, and we were just kind of cracking through some of the numbers before. You know, he's at win number 226 overall now, and with 4 more wins, he'll be 5th in NFL history. And there's a lot to be discussed about that, maybe at another time, about the context of that and how many seasons that takes. But certainly you'd say that's an elite thing. And certainly you'd say it suggests that or reinforces how he has established a perennial contender here and maybe something a little more.
Yeah, and there are no non-conference games in the NFL. We're going to make the college analogy. I don't look at the Patriots, even without Cam, as being non-conference. And, you know, like Alabama, the Chiefs now are facing the season as the champions. They haven't had that in 50 years where they are the team that's circled on everybody's schedule. And so it's not always going to be easy.
No, you're right. Look, and it's victory number 13 in a row. 13 in a row. Ho-hum, just another victory. And it came against the nemesis, the AFC nemesis, the New England Patriots. That was, looking at the Chiefs' schedule before the season. 3 of their first 4 games were against teams that won the division, their AFC division last year. Right, the Texans won the South. The Ravens won the North, and the Patriots, of course, won the East. So the Chiefs have got those 3 cleared out. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean they're the 3 most difficult teams on the Chiefs' schedule. We certainly know that because the Texans are so bad, they fired their head coach, Bill O'Brien, today. So, but, because you're a first-place team, you play a first-place schedule, and the Chiefs went through those other first-place teams. And actually, as it turns out, the closest game they've had so far this season was not against a first-place team. It was against the LA Chargers. So at least they got that going for them. Listen, a lot of people have already started to weigh in. So glad to see these comments and questions. John Bazil Jr. says he thought the delay was a factor, and you get all amped up for a game, and you're told, the day before the game you're not going. It may have been a factor certainly early on in terms of the pace and rhythm of the game. Look, the Patriots had to travel today, right? They had to get tested before they left New England. I think I read at 6 a.m. this morning before hopping on the plane to come to Kansas City. They spent a few hours in a hotel before coming over to Arrowhead. but the Chiefs also had some, they also were delayed, and it wasn't the same for them in terms of travel. But was there an advantage either way here with the delay? What do you think, Vahe?
Well, I think if you play it all through, probably the Chiefs had the lesser of the complications, right, because of the delay. But that doesn't mean the Chiefs didn't have some things thrown off by it, right? I mean, the game is so mental, and even though they knew Saturday they weren't going to play Sunday, I do think it just throws the whole sequence of things off, and I think that showed up a little bit in some discombobulated play here and there. But I think the flip side of that is, if we've learned nothing from 2020, it's that we're always in flux, and sports are not immune to that. And the Patriots lost the guy that might have made a little bit of a difference in how the game would have played, right? In Cam Newton, I think that shifted the dynamic a lot. So I think it affected the game, but I don't think it throws out the result or anything like that, right? It's just how it has to be. But we can't emphasize enough how weird the game was, right? How many strange things happened in it. And look, the main thing was that the Chiefs seemed to be in position to maybe blow them out early, right? I mean, those two of the first three drives, I think it was, they just sliced right through the Patriots, and they couldn't get in the end zone. And then there were a couple just really uncharacteristic moments out of Patrick Mahomes. He probably should have been intercepted on the first drive, and then we can get into the other stuff later about him. But they could have been up 13, 20, 16 going into early in the second quarter, and it was still 6-3 at halftime.
Well, Chiefs certainly had the big advantage early on in possession time and total yards. And you're right, Vahe, 2 of the first 3 possessions, the Chiefs ended up settling for field goals. They had moved the ball to get into scoring position. I was happy to see Butker make those 2 field goals after missing 1 and an extra point the previous week in Baltimore. But I thought those were kind of victories for the Patriots, holding the Chiefs to field goals. And into the second quarter, and then after halftime into the third quarter, I thought the momentum of the game had flipped. And then a couple of things happened that flipped the momentum back. But before we talk about that, I want to get Pete in on this, because I know Pete ended up writing about it. There was a play that involved Patrick Mahomes, and what we thought at the time might have been a bad call by an official. When he was sacked, the ball came loose, and Patriots recovered it. And we saw that Bill Belichick was furious on the sideline. And initially, I didn't know why he was furious. And it turns out, according to Jim Nantz and Tony Romo, I guess they had heard it from the sideline, he was hot because he thought they called 90 down after he recovered the ball. It turns out, according to Mahomes after the game, Mahomes said he heard the whistle blow as he was going down, and then he gave up the ball. So, Pete, I know that you ended up writing about that play.
Well, it's interesting when you watch the replay with the volume, didn't really hear a whistle until well after they had recovered the ball. It was a strange deal. It was clearly a fumble. I mean, just watching it on TV, although Nantz and Romo were confused, they called it an interception at one point. That wasn't an interception, it was an incompletion. My biggest takeaway was you hear about the hurry-up offense. The Chiefs got the hurry-up punt team on the field and got that ball punted quickly. They knew that, and I think you're right, Belichick, if he'd known that they didn't get possession of the ball, I think he would have thrown his challenge flag a lot earlier if the Chiefs hadn't hustled there.
It was strange because Andy said that that wasn't reviewable because it was a dead ball, but I didn't understand. I don't know. I shouldn't go too far in that direction because I'm thrown off a little bit by that. I thought that could have been reviewable, and certainly I thought they had a little extra haste on getting the punt out there. So I don't know. I'm not sure I understand how that whole thing played out.
I'm sorry. I just reminded. I'm sure a lot of Chiefs fans were reminded of the Titans playoff game, right?
Yeah.
The forward progress game where they got hosed twice, and so breaks come back.
One of our readers, one of our audience members just noted, I think that's the right way to say it, that in the grasp is not reviewable, right? And I guess that's the essence of the play.
Right. Certainly could have been huge, right? A big momentum shift for in the game, and but it was called as it was called, and the Chiefs. I don't know if it's if you'd label it getting it a break. It was interpreted the way, according to the rules, that it should have been interpreted. Vahe, you made the point earlier. I think the Chiefs were more fortunate not to have a couple of Patrick Mahomes passes picked off tonight. That one on the first series, and then one later as the Patriots near the Patriots goal line.
And maybe the biggest break of the game was the punt that went between the wickets of Mecole Hardman that somehow he didn't touch, because that was really tough. I mean, he must have missed it by a centimeter, and I don't think it was because he was trying to avoid it. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but it was really a weird play. I'd love to see the most close up and precise of replays and see just how much that missed by, because that would have been a bit of a game changer too.
Yeah, that was another reminder of playoff games past, wasn't it? Didn't that look just like the Julian Edelman in the AFC Championship game, where did he touch it, didn't he touch it? But yeah, they did catch a break. The Chiefs got their fair share of breaks, and even if the refs maybe didn't get a call right here or there, I think most people who watch the NFL would agree the Patriots have had their fair share.
Sure, and one of our in our audience, let's see if I can find it really quick. Mentioned that are we to the point now where Patrick Mahomes is getting superstar treatment? So, I like that. It'll be the first time in the history of Kansas City sports that someone from this area got the superstar treatment. So anyway, look. The Chiefs they did get some breaks, and the Patriots didn't take advantage of opportunities that they had to win this game. The Chiefs had a huge advantage on the offensive side. They've got maybe arguably the best quarterback in the NFL operating. His counterpart was Brian Hoyer, that started to start the game, who Chiefs fans know well as the quarterback they beat twice in 2015 when he played for the Houston Texans, one in the season opener, whose first pass that year was intercepted by Marcus Peters, and then was the quarterback for the Texans in the playoff game, the first Chiefs playoff victory in more than 20 years. So big advantage for the Chiefs. They just weren't able to take full advantage of that offensively. Vahe, you mentioned it before. They did get up and down the field early, couldn't get the ball into the end zone, and I was wondering, the game was playing out the way Bill Belichick wanted it to. I mean, it was going quickly. The Patriots were having success running the ball. They finished with 185 yards rushing tonight. That's how with the team set up the way the Patriots were tonight. That was the path to victory. Keeping the ball on the ground, keeping it low scoring, knowing you're not going to be able to score with the Chiefs, and try to punch in a touchdown or two. So, hey, Sam McDowell, we're joined by you. And what did you end up writing tonight, Sam?
I wrote about what I think is kind of the new emerging strength of this team. Not the strength, a new strength, and I think that's the secondary. It's a spot that I questioned going into the season just because of how young it was outside of their leader Tyrann Mathieu, but it's a strength of this team now. In 4 straight games to open this season, they've kept teams under 300 yards passing. They're third in the NFL now against the pass, and I don't think with this group, how many times in the offseason did we think, are they going to go get another cornerback? Do they need another cornerback, especially with Bashaud Breeland's suspension? Now Bashaud Breeland's coming back, and even with L'Jarius Sneed's injury, I'm wondering, is he going to get his starting spot back when he comes back next week? I mean, I think the transformation back there has been incredible. I think you got to give a lot of credit, of course, to Steve Spagnuolo. You've got to give credit to Brett Veach and the way he's drafted, because these are young guys that he's acquired that way. And you got to give credit to Vahe's boy Tyrann Mathieu, because he's without a doubt the leader of that group. Has anyone said yet, by the way, that have we pointed out the Tyrann Mathieu pick 6 yet, for Vahe's sake?
We have not. It's all yours.
I just wanted to say, and I know I've tweeted it, and I'm repeating myself here, but Vahe reported this first, and he deserves to be credited. Anybody out there that wants to report that Tyrann Mathieu had a pick six needs to credit Vahe Gregorian for saying it first.
Now, just let me clarify that I may have jumped the route a little bit, so to speak, by calling it last season a few times, if that's what you're getting at. The other thing that's kind of funny about this is that you knew that subconsciously I was thinking that, but here in the office where Blair and I were watching at a comfortable distance from each other, Blair actually literally called it first because he was watching on a TV that was 10 seconds ahead of mine. But that's my guy, Tyrann. Yep.
Well, in addition to the play tonight of Tyrann Mathieu, got the pick six, first defensive. I'm right about this, right? First defensive touchdown of the year. I thought Rashad Fenton played terrific. A couple of pass breakups, and he got the pick.
Yeah, they went after him tonight too, Blair. I thought the Patriots' strategy, at least in their passing game, was to try and attack Rashad Fenton. I think when you've got Charvarius Ward on the other side and Tyrann Mathieu doing a lot of the stuff in the slot, that they looked at Fenton and thought, this is the guy we need to exploit. They did get him for the touchdown.
Yeah,
other than that, they got he had 4 pass breakups and the interception. I thought he had a really good day.
I thought one thing with Fenton on that touchdown, I don't know if you agreed on it, Sam, but as I looked at it, and I think Blair and I were kind of kicking it around here in the office, he just got beat at the end. I mean, he was in pretty good position, but just basically got I don't know, outreached, out jumped or something at the point of the ball coming down.
And let's not omit the role that the pass coverage played in a couple of the big defensive plays by the line.
For sure.
The play by Frank Clark at the end of the first half when the Patriots were at least going to tie the game. You know, it was third and goal at the 8, I believe, and had a chance to get the ball in the end zone. All Hoyer had to do at that point was either throw it away and assure the Patriots of the field goal attempt, and he didn't do that. He kept the ball and got sacked by Frank Clark, and as television replay showed us, he thought he had a timeout left. He's getting up asking for the timeout, and in basketball you get a technical foul for that, but in football you just get zeros on the clock and probably a tongue lashing by Belichick in the locker room, and then
I think Brian Hoyer, Blair, would prefer to have the technical foul compared to probably what he heard in the locker room at halftime.
Exactly.
Probably right.
And then
Chris Webber's been waiting years for that. Someone else to get that, right?
Tucker Charlton's big play as well. The strip sack and then Ben Neiman with the recovery. Good individual defensive line play. I thought I gave my highest grade to the pass defense tonight and made Tyrann Mathieu the KC Star player of the game for his pick six. So I think it was deserving. I thought that was the best part of what the Chiefs had tonight was their pass defense.
I do too. I mean, like I said, that's the reason I wrote about it. But also, I think it's been the most consistent for the first 4 weeks. I mean, I think Vahe's probably already talked about this before I got on because I know he at least addressed it in his column is the fact that they're finding different ways to win games. But to me, the one way that's been the exact same every single game so far this week, the Chargers, that game, they were just okay. The other 3, they've been really good against quarterbacks. And I know the Patriots obviously didn't have their guy tonight, but Baltimore did, and the Houston Texans did in the opener, and they shut down those 2 teams as well. So if that can become a strength of this team, because we know they got guys up front that can play, it helps them obviously cover for what I think is the weakness of this defense, which is the linebackers.
All right, let me ask you guys this: if Cam Newton was available tonight, did the Chiefs win the game?
They don't win the first half. I'm not sure if they come out with. I would say I think they probably still win the game, but they definitely don't have the lead there in the first half.
I think that's right, and I think that it's just too hard to know how it would have played out. I mean, I do on one hand think we saw what they did against Lamar Jackson, but I think it's also different, right? They have somewhat of a similar skill set, but they also have different mentalities, and I'd like to see that game when Cam Newton's playing. Maybe we'll see it in the playoffs.
It was a 16-point victory. Would Cam Newton make that big of a difference? I know there are a lot of tipping points you can point to in the game. I think the Chiefs still prevail as well too, because the one characteristic is when they need to do something, they seem to do it, even on offense. I mean, they do find a way to get those touchdowns. I mean, Mahomes threw 2 touchdown passes tonight.
It's funny, those 2 touchdown passes, though, they probably went a total of 5 feet, right? I mean, but still count as touchdown passes, still no interceptions.
Pete does make a good point for why you can't just compare, if this guy would have played, which is the Chiefs offense does seem to perform its best when they have to have something happen. They weren't placed in that position tonight. But at the same time, we saw the Patriots commit to keeping the clock rolling. And by the way, their defense also committed to the clock rolling because they forced the Chiefs to try and run the ball more. And so I think that we would have seen the Patriots, one of the reasons they threw that pick six is because they got in a spot where they had to throw the football. They might not have been in that position late in the game if they had Cam Newton tonight. The Chiefs might have not had that pick six late in the game.
Kyle Coffey makes the point that Julian Edelman has the most drops in the NFL for the last few years. He's right. Vahe, didn't we look that up? And
yeah, there was I apologize for not being able to cite the exact place it came from, but it was a prominent NFL site, and it had him for 11 drops the last 2 seasons, most in the NFL. Second is somebody with 8. So, which really surprised me. I mean, I feel like I've almost never seen the guy drop passes, but I think he may be getting to a point where he's a little less than what his peak performances were.
That was quite a costly drop today when he.
Yeah, that was still the game at that point, right? I mean, I don't know that I thought the Patriots were going to go score them, but that just kind of shut the door. I mean, and really on the clock, that was literally 2 seconds after Hardman's touchdown. That was pretty much it.
Yeah, it was 19-10 at the time, and Tyrann Mathieu was pretty alert and focused on that play. Sometimes you're so locked in on the target that you don't see the ball come out of the hands, right? And you're trying to make the tackle, but he was prepared, I think, to do both, to make the tackle or to do what he did, snatch the ball out of the air. So
well, I liked Andy Reid's answer when I asked him about that after the game. He was so focused on his own target. He was over on the sideline talking to Patrick. He was like, I think it looked like a nice play. Yeah, that was good. You need those.
Well, that's right. Anybody who watches the Chiefs knows that when the Chiefs defense is on the field, Andy and Patrick Mahomes are sitting on the bench going over what is going on the offensive side. So,
that used to be a complaint of people when this defense wasn't performing like it is now.
That's right. So what?
This guy.
This guy.
Hello, Sam.
The bandit.
Sam Mellinger's joined us. What's up, Sam?
How you guys doing?
Oh, we're doing fine. We're doing swell.
I never know what to do with this thing. I don't know if you guys can you hear me or I don't know what to do.
Yeah, we hear you fine.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay.
Still in the press box.
Stick with it. Yeah.
Okay.
I only regret that this doesn't cover more of my face.
Well, you'd have to put up really high to get your hairline. So.
Wow.
So what'd you end up writing tonight, Sam?
I forgot after that. No, I wrote just about the whether the Patriots sort of unearthed something here. That was a game plan. We've seen teams defend the Chiefs in all sorts of different ways, but I don't know that we've seen a team do it quite like that. And I don't know if this is recency bias, but they were dropping. They had 6 defensive backs at least on the field at some most snaps, if not all. I'm curious to see the snap counts from that game. And they were able to drop deep and take care of Tyreek and McCole Hardman downfield, but then not give up a ton of the intermediate stuff. So it was sort of like what Houston did in the opener. But the Chiefs were able to just slaughter them, with 20-yard completions on that night. And that just never happened tonight. And, Patrick Mahomes, he is great when you ask him about football. Like when you ask him about it, like a specific football play. And he talked about, there were times where he just wasn't seeing guys open. And they were open, and he would see it when he got to the sideline talking with Andy on the tablet or whatever. But for whatever reason, when he was, in the pocket with the ball, he didn't see him. And that's a problem. I mean, that, the effort that the Patriots defense gave tonight, holding the Chiefs offense to 19 points, that's good enough to win. That's good enough to win if you have, a lot of quarterbacks that aren't Brian Hoyer and Jarrett Stidham. You know what I mean? Like if Cam Newton's in this game, like I don't know, what we're talking about if we're talking about the 3-1 Chiefs right now. And, this is at this point in the season, this is really interesting, right? Because they're about to play the Raiders, who, they have Derek Carr, but that's a very physical team with some big playmakers. And then right after that, they play the Buffalo Bills, one of the most physical teams in the league, and in a team that really looks like, the Steelers look good too, but the Bills might be, what we thought the Ravens would be this year, and that's 3 games in 11 days. And I just wonder if there's just a little bit of something that was unlocked in the film tonight that other teams are going to try and use.
Okay, we welcome in Herbie Teope. What's up, Herbie?
What's going on, gentlemen? And I agree with Sam there. It is a copycat league. You hit the nail on the head there, Mr. Melly.
I'll tell you what, I thought it was interesting when we saw replays from the eye in the sky of pass plays that weren't successful for the Chiefs, and you could see the Patriots coverage. I was just amazed at how well they had covered. They had the field covered, and obviously we couldn't see the whole. You can't see the whole field on a replay, but the Chiefs receivers that you could see from the above camera looking down looked like the Patriots were playing terrific defense. And another key to that, and I thought this is how it sort of resembled the Chargers defense, is that the Patriots are getting pressure with rushing 4. They didn't blitz often. They were able to move Mahomes out of the pocket and get him on the run. And I'm thinking it's always a good thing when Mahomes is flushed, right? Because he's going to find somebody. And there was that early pass to Tyreek Hill that turned into about a 17 or 19-yard gain when Mahomes is flushed. But he didn't get a lot of that tonight, did he? I mean, that wasn't there for him. And I just give all due credit to Bill Belichick and the Patriots' defensive game plan.
Hey, I tell you what, Blair, one quick thing. I think one of the plays of the game that I kind of hadn't thought that much about till you just said that, but Patrick went for I think 18 yards on 3rd and 8 on the drive that made it 19-10, and that might have been, maybe the play of the game in some ways. It probably won't be appreciated in the big picture, but I wonder how the game would have played out from there if he hadn't converted that.
To your point, Blair, about how the Patriots were able to generate pressure without blitzing. And I actually made that point to Melly in the press box. I turned to him. I was like, that's the biggest difference between the Ravens and the Patriots is the fact that they are able to generate pressure with their front 4, and in some cases just their front 3. Because as Melly pointed out, it seemed like they had 13 people in coverage. I don't think the Raiders can duplicate that, but the Bills are going to be a fascinating test because, as Melly pointed out, that's a physical defense up there in Buffalo.
The solution to this, though, is you got to run the football.
Yeah.
And tonight they didn't run the football. And they had lanes to run the football, and they still weren't able to run it successfully. So to me, other teams are going to defend them like this, and they got to run the football against these sort of.
Yeah, and to I'm sorry, I hope I'm not cutting you off. The feed froze for a second, but Edwards-Helaire was really good in the post game. About he's a rookie. I think he's the youngest guy on the team, but he took his share of that. The run game is not just the run. It's the line obviously, but it's also the running back picking the lanes, and that 6 and 7 defensive back. I mean, when they're doing that in the first quarter, you think, oh, Edwards-Helaire, he's going to eat tonight. He's going to have 138 yards like he did against the Texans. But I hate to use the cliche about like needing to watch the film, but it did seem like there were some lanes on some snaps. But I'm curious to go back and look at the breakdown. Is it, is more of this on the line? Is more of this on Edwards-Helaire? But you're right, Sam. I mean, it's a good point because the way you can, get more linebackers on the field is to be able to run the ball, and the Chiefs just did not do that at all. There was some curious play calling at times, but I guess that probably exists in every game. But they really do need to get some things fixed. It was striking to me that the Chiefs beat the Patriots by 16 points, and the post-game press conference, all of them just sounded like a loss. I mean, body language, tone, everything. It was different.
We got to get a lot better. We got to get that cleaned up. You know.
Yeah, this would be a good tape to learn
this.
from. It was, yeah, it was.
13th win in a row.
Yeah, it was stuff that we've heard a lot, you know, at this stadium, but not with the 16-point win.
Different context, yeah.
I thought that was as downbeat as I've heard Mahomes in a post game.
Yes, 100%.
After a victory. I was just kind of taken by that he was really unhappy with himself and look, again, all due credit to Bill Belichick and a defensive game plan, and we've seen it before, right? The first half of the AFC Championship game, that's the only time that the Chiefs have been shut out in the first half with Mahomes as a starter. And the game up in New England last year was a rock fight, wasn't it? I mean, pretty much a defensive game. It happens when you play the Patriots. I just think Mahomes, the makeup of Mahomes is such that when they don't drive and score on every possession, he somehow thinks it's a failure. And I guess that's how much Chiefs fans are spoiled these days.
That, it was amazing when they were at the 2-yard line after the penalty on Hardman, and it was like 3 plays. They went like 68 yards or something, and then they just couldn't finish the deal from there. That was amazing both ways.
Okay, one thing I want to get into, and maybe we should talk about this in greater depth later in the week, but one thing that we used to see with pre-Mahomes Chiefs teams is just the inability to score touchdowns in the red zone. You remember how many times they settled for field goals? I know we covered a game, I think it was at Cincinnati one year, where Cairo Santos kicked 7 field goals. I mean, they just did nothing but kick field goals.
Rawr.
Cairo country.
Yeah, right. That's right.
Right. And the Chiefs would, they'd lead or for top 2 in the AFC and field goals every year. And I'll tell you what, I know they settled for field goals in the first half, but they did get in the end zone with 2 similar plays in the second half. The little pitches to Hardman and Hill. And what we saw last week in Baltimore with the clever play calling and inside the. So when the field shrinks, when you get down there, it's supposed to be tougher to get into the end zone. The field shrinks, and you're going against the defense as good as the Ravens, the Chargers, the Patriots tonight. And the Chiefs are certainly finding ways to get the ball in the end zone from short distances. They're clever about it and creative about it, but I just think that's maybe a little under the radar attribute that we're seeing with the Chiefs. And listen, we've seen it throughout the young, short Patrick Mahomes tenure, but maybe that's an unappreciated quality that the Chiefs have.
Yeah, I thought they were going to be able to run the ball a little bit better in those short yardage situations with Edwards-Helaire. I thought that was part of what they got him for. I know he's not a big bruising back, but he's strong as hell, and he can be tough to bring down. But it doesn't seem like that's happening. But I'll tell you that if that means that they're going to run more of these like fake option left, pitch it to Tyreek Hill, who's going behind a pulling guard, and Demarcus Robinson into the end zone, sign me up, because that play was amazing.
That's right. Okay. Brian LaBerge and some others have talked about Andrew Wiley starting tonight at guard instead of Mike Remmers, who got the start last week in Baltimore, and the offense certainly seemed to move better last week. So maybe that's something we can get into later in the week, how that breaks down. But no doubt that it was they just played a better brand of offensive football last week against the Ravens. So let's see. Larry Looper checking in with his comments. Good to hear from you, Larry. Well, most of it here. Larry says we look nano-sized on an iPhone X. That's good to know. All right, let's start to wrap it up and get out of here. Third night game in 4 weeks, and it'll be 4 out of 6 when this little stretch is over. And there will still not have been a week where the Chiefs have had a sort of a normal prep week through the Bills game, which is really, really interesting. So let's kind of bottom line this thing. Sam McDowell, what do the Chiefs get out of this, and what do you get out of this for the Chiefs?
I think it's hard to get scoops in this league, and Vahe getting a scoop by a full year, I just think needs to be commended, and that's my biggest takeaway from this.
He absolutely did.
So I just want to leave it there. I mean, enough talk about the Chiefs. Enough talk about the Chiefs. This is Vahe's night.
Call the shot.
Can I just chime in and say that that's kind of the way I am with clothes too. I've had some for 10 or 15 years that are kind of coming back into style. So I'm good with that.
All right. Herbie, what do you think? Bottom line, this thing.
Defense. I'm all about defense tonight. I love that play Taco Charlton made. That was the absolute game-changing play when that strip sack fumble. Chiefs take that fumble and march down the field and put a touchdown on the board, and then it was all uphill or downhill after that. Rashad Fenton, my goodness. What a game from Rashad Fenton. And I think, if anything, that gives you confidence in this cornerback group, because they're going to have Bashad Breeland after this week. Coach Andy Reid basically said after the game that, yeah, he's coming back because he's eligible to return for suspension. And you got to be comfortable with the cornerback group, especially once L'Jarius Sneed returns from injured reserve with a shoulder injury. To me, yes, the offense was sloppy, but defense was what won the game today.
What do you think, Pete?
Yeah, it's a win. It's a win in the NFL. They're 4-0. They're 2 games up in their division. They're going to get a chance to really take control of the win over the Raiders, and they've beaten 3 playoff teams. It doesn't matter how you win. It doesn't matter if they got the backup quarterback, having to travel on the same day they're playing. Win's a win in the NFL. That's at the end of the season. That's all we're going to look at.
That's what Andy Reid says. All right, Melly, bottom line it.
Yeah, I mean, the Chiefs have won 13 in a row, including the Super Bowl. So any criticism of them is a high-level criticism. But I just can't stop thinking about how this is just a really interesting point in their season with how the schedule's laying out of 3 games in 11 days, all against very physical teams. I keep wondering if there's a sliver. I don't think the Raiders are talented enough to pull it off. They are physical enough to put some hurt into the Chiefs a little bit, to make the Chiefs remember who they played on Monday. But I'm really curious how this lays out in front of that game in Buffalo. Gosh, it's just a week from Thursday, right?
Yeah. You're right, a week from Thursday. So, look, it's you guys are right. 4-0, 13 in a row, and I wouldn't say we're looking for nits to pick, but when it can't all be roses, right? There's got to be some room for improvement. And to hear the Chiefs talk after the game, they've got a lot to work on, and another short week to do it with the Raiders coming in town on Sunday. We hope it's Sunday. Hey, the other thing that I think about with these Chiefs is they've really been. I know Chris Jones didn't play tonight, and that was a little bit of a surprise since he did get some practice time this week. But the Chiefs have actually had some fortune with the injuries and COVID testing this year. So they haven't lost many games to injuries so far this season, and we'll see if that stays with them. The other thing I thought about tonight, we talked about how good Patrick Mahomes was in September, undefeated and 32 touchdown passes, no interceptions. Well, he got October off to a good start tonight, 2 touchdown passes and no interceptions as well. So.
Hey, Blair, can I say something real quick about Chris Jones?
Sure.
Who you just mentioned, because that was a surprise to me, at least. I mean, he practiced during the week. Friday seemed like, we're all good. I just wonder, the first thing I thought of was if they weren't at this point in the schedule, if they didn't have, a short week ahead of the Raiders and then a really, really, really short week ahead of the Bills. I just wonder if this is a game that they might have played him. But just, look, the last thing we want to do is make that thing worse on that guy, on a guy that talented and that important at this moment in the schedule. And I wonder, Andy Reid is going to take everyone he can get, but I wonder if the Brian Hoyer news made that an easier decision for him on Chris Jones.
Yeah, I thought about that as well. I wondered and Andy was asked about that tonight, and of course, no, he couldn't go. So, but you couldn't help but wonder a little bit. So, okay, listen, we'll wrap it up. I wanted to thank everybody for participating: Barbara Hedrick, Peter Alden, Ryan LeBurge, Larry Looper, all you guys. It's great to have you, Carol Spencer, Clyde Scones. Thanks for listening in, tuning in, and being part of the audience. And join us again later in the week. I think Thursday, but we'll have to see how the Chiefs' media schedule works out this week. But 9:30 in the morning on Thursday, I believe we'll meet you again, and we'll thank Beth Welsh, our producer, who does a great job and was pressed into duty a little earlier than she expected tonight and rose to the occasion. Beth, thanks a lot. And that'll do it from us. Follow the coverage of the Chiefs in the Star and on kansascity.com. Good night, guys.